that would be it. But this specific quest actually has a pretty fun third option thing. So instead of those two options, you can just walk away. Like if you either don't think through or just give up and walk away after speaking Roach the first time, the quest will fail. But if you return to the hermit and talk to her, she reveals that your horse Roach managed to solve the mystery on its own, which is pretty rare for a quest to resolve by itself, let alone by a horse. But it's an appropriately strange ending to one of the goofiest quests in the entire game. And at number 7, you can control the weather. It's something you might have found, but didn't realize that it was even supposed to be something. On the island of Pharaoh in Skellige, there's 3 shrines dedicated to Hemdall. If you interact with them, you'll get a message saying your prayers have been heard. Now, Geralt isn't really one for praying, so a lot of players may not immediately know what that means. It doesn't take long, though, to see that even though it doesn't say anywhere what you actually did, depending on the shrine you interact with, the weather will change. If you use the southernmost shrine, it'll start snowing. Use the western shrine, and the thunderstorm will start up. And if you use the northern shrine, it gives you clear skies. There's also actually an eastern shrine as well, but it doesn't really do anything. Why any of this is in the game, I don't really know, but it is an interesting detail. And number 6, you can kill the Beast of Busan instantly. During the first real quest of Blood and Wine DLC, you encounter a giant that, depending on what level you are, can be pretty tough to take down. There is a way to make it much easier, though. Just target his eye. If you aim carefully with the crossbow and hit him right through the little hole in his helmet, that will kill the giant instantly and earn the David and Goliath achievement. It's easier to pull off with the skill to make time slow down if you're aiming with the crossbow, but it is possible to do without it. Now, this is the only giant that can be killed instantly through this method. The other one seemed to take a lot of damage from getting shot in the eye. This one of the Beast of Tucson quest is the only one that actually seemed to die instantly. At number 5, there is an easier way to complete the quest, A Dangerous Spin. After you save Dandelion, you can do a quest with Zoltan that involves collecting a few Gwent cards from various characters. The first involves a guy named Rabbit, who eventually gets taken by some thugs who threaten to kill him unless you play a game of Gwent. If you lose the game, he dies, and if you refuse, he dies. So basically, the only way to get a good outcome is to play Gwent. If you're not that good at Gwent, or don't have a very strong deck, then the whole sequence can be pretty frustrating to want to save the guy. But there is actually another option. Instead of talking to the bandits at all, just throw a bomb at them. This immediately
starts up a fight with them, and it allows you to totally bypass the choice.
After they're all dead, Ravik will just give you the card you need. And it's a small thing, but it makes it a lot easier to get through this quest if you haven't been playing a whole lot of games with Gwent. And although I actually like Gwent quite a bit, I know that there's plenty of people who don't really love it. At number 4, you can actually cut off a Grave Hag's tongue. The Grave Hag is pretty much the only monster you can post. And the way you do this is by cutting off its tongue by parrying at the right time. So you do this, and she can't poison you anymore. It's not like riposting against humans, though. It's harder. And you can also do this on small flying enemies who have to dive on you by just using their sound cue to parry at the right time. But most monsters and attacks just can't be parried in this game. The primary exception, and probably the most interesting one, is the Grave Hag, like you said, which likes to attack you with its tongue. Most of the time, the monster's best attack is avoided, but in this one instance, you can counterattack. Like I said a second ago, if you time it right, you actually do cut off the creature's tongue entirely, and that does make the fight a little easier. Timing is tricky, so most times it's easier to just kill these things by simply attacking them and not worrying about countering. But just the fact you can do it is pretty cool, and I had no idea you could.
To make my first mission, revenge on the scammer. Now, later, these like there's laptop and there's webcam. What you can see on my Google Chrome right now is something that might prevent you or your loved ones from being active scammed.
And number 3, you can kill flying enemies instantly by knocking them into the water. It's actually one of the most useful tricks early on because enemies tend to die instantly when they hit the water. So the way you do this is that you can use the R sign to sometimes send certain enemies flying. That's the way you're going to be doing it to these types of enemies. But with flying enemies, usually the easiest way to deal with them is to simply cast the action sign, which stuns them in the midair. If they crash into the water, that kills them instantly. Some of the toughest enemies from Witcher 3 are flying ones, so having a way to immediately eliminate them is pretty handy. You can even do it to the Griffin in White Orchard. That's how early you can pull this trick off. And as long as there's a body of water around, it works pretty much every time. And number 2, there is a donkey that makes gold. Now, the Blood and Wine expansion has a lot of wild stuff in it. It doesn't really totally match the rest of the world that Geralt occupies. And a lot of that stuff can be found in the Beyond Hill and Dale quest that transports you to the land of a thousand fables. Now, this whole place is great. There's like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, gold and goose, and, well, a donkey that lays gold. Now, lay means it shits the gold out. That is what is happening here. You can find it in the castle, in the clouds, in the stables. If you find a donkey, look on the floor, and you'll find it's gold. Let's call it a reward. It might seem like this would be an easy way to make a lot of money, but it's not regular gold. It's magic gold, which might as well be worthless. Once you leave the illusion, it just disappears from your inventory, but at least you can sell it to the little girl inside you. By this point in the game, however, a few crowns in exchange isn't really worth wasting your time, but you can do something with this golden poop. And finally, at number 1, you can fast travel from any boat. Yeah, this is a really small thing, but it can save you a ton of time. So much so that it is ridiculous, especially in Skellige, where half the time you're just rowing from one island to the next. So save yourself some time. Just open up your map when you're in a boat, select a dock, and you'll instantly travel to it. For whatever reason, this is a thing that a lot of people, myself included, don't immediately realize is possible. Some even while spending hundreds of hours with the game. There is more fast travel stuff I didn't know about too. Like if you travel to the edge of the world, the game will automatically open up the map and let you fast travel from there. That would have been nice to know before doing basically everything in Skellige already, but at least I know about it now. And that is the end for today. If you like this video, like. If you're not subscribed, now's a good time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, and I play it. That means I have a bit of a fish flip. Some pretty practical things. Some supposed to be fantastic. But I think as single-player gamers, we'd all love to see more of at least something on this. Starting off with number 10, immersive ultimate game. One thing single-player games tend to be pretty good at it. The thing about immersion is that it's never just one thing that makes the game feel real. It's a whole lot of things. And to this point, I want to focus on some feel world. These are the sorts of things you mostly see in big AAA productions that just deliver a level of detail that kind of only huge game with a massive budget. If you want a good example of what I'm talking about, look at Black Ops Cold War. When you talk to your teammate seated at his desk, depending on location you first talk to her, the desk turns to look at you. Those are the kinds of small details we talk about. In other games, they can create a conversation from one angle, and they wouldn't have to create a discussion animations that most people don't even notice, but subconsciously make the game a lot more immersive. Arkham Knight is another game that really takes things to the next level with this. The different contextual animations you can pull out here are stuff like getting into the Batmobile, pretty drastically, depending on standing by it, on top of it, it's sliding, freaking dive bombing it. The animation changes to match that action, and it's so there's more obvious ones out there too, like selfie and take grab like a weapon, like maybe a knife that they've got somewhere where you're just close enough to kill, or the way characters shift their weight, whether they can grab on like they're all really relatively easy, but wow, do they make the characters again. And number 9 is good cutscene control. Now, this is a more practical concern. So many games still have no way to pause during a cutscene. That's ridiculous. And it's less of an issue in Avalon. But for anything story-driven, you really should be able to do whatever. Like, especially pausing, skipping, or restarting a cutscene in case you get something, or just pee, or it's time to get up and stretch a little bit. The main thing I want to emphasize here is just choice. Anyone who wants to skip a cutscene or dialogue, I think you should be able to. Like, maybe you've seen it before, and this is kind of a waste of your time. But on the flip side, anyone who wants to experience a game story as fully as possible, you should be able to do that without issues. The best possible implementation would be to just make it so you can pause at any time. And from there, you can make the options like skip, or if you don't want to go through the trouble of pausing, you should be able to go back to it. Options. or even have the option to automatically set up default action that happens to your preference. Probably one of the most annoying things about starting a new game is figuring out how cutscenes work. So often it's a coin flip whether hitting start is going to pause it and skip the whole scene. And that sucks because it leaves a lot of players afraid to touch anything while a movie plays out. What's interesting is if you go back a little ways to the Xbox 360 era, a lot of games back made it very obvious how to skip cutscenes by putting a big flash skip button. And that's how you do it. And you can still see some games that are like that now, where they have like a little A button at the bottom corner, and you hold it down, and it goes around the button. You don't do anything by accident, and I would love to see more of that. It doesn't break immersion when you do it in that more subtle way that we see now, but not enough games do it at all. A lot of games still just outright screw this up, and I don't think it's really asking a lot. Just an easy way to pause it and cut or even restart them. And number 8 is reactive dialogue and cutscenes, like things you can do in the game that it doesn't tell you to do, but they work anyway, like to go along with the reactive animations. Another thing we'd love to see it's really done in game is when the dialogue or the story changes depending on what you're doing, like without making it obvious this is possible. Like I can remember little times when you could do something that they didn't tell you could do that was kind of monotonous, but at the same time it would like make me elated. I was like, crap. I remember Donkey Kong Country being kind of ripe with these things because they really wanted to shoot.
Well,
They couldn't like EA 5. You're supposed to kill a guy by shooting. You'd think shooting him with something else would cause him to fail. That's actually not true. The game tells you to use a sniper rifle, but you could use a rocket launcher instead, and it actually changes the cutscene. It's actually kind of amazing that it's developed from doing little dances in Donkey Kong Country to being able to fully change it like different weapon that causes something almost totally different to happen. GTA 5 is actually full of this kind of stuff. A lot of missions are more open than the game tells you. And it's really cool when the game acknowledges things that you do in it.
what you doing, bro?
That it has them. It makes it feel more like it's your story rather than a series of disconnected cuts that happen in gameplay. And number 7 is in-depth mission and level select options. A pretty big one, but also very practical. Few games have decent levels, my gosh.
Are you typing?
A lot of games are going backwards rather than forwards with this. A lot of the old Assassin's will let you play missions whenever you want, but like with Origin and everything after it, the only way to replay certain single missions seem to be getting longer and longer, but if you want to replay any part of them again, it's kind of all or nothing. And that's weird, especially when not every game is terrible about it. Like the Master Chief Collection lets you play any mission game series easily, and for a lot of them, even have different starting points to play from. The Xbox 360 / PS3 Alone in the Dark game, it was pretty rough, but one thing it did super correctly was the levels. Skip to any part of the game whenever you want it, and it was shown in a movie-like timeline. It's not necessarily you didn't want to see in every game, but particularly in cinematic, so I think it would be better. Like Tactics Ogre on PSP had this elaborate story tree that lets you go back and you can pretty much go to any choice to branch the story and make a different choice, which is interesting. At times, the system I'm thinking is more of older RPG games because honestly, like you can kind of do ad hoc things, but it'd be really cool if you could just sort of have the option, you know? Not necessarily that I would use it all the time. I do like to some extent being stuck with my choices, and I think sometimes it's nice to not have to go back to that, but rather use the system next time. Even if it does some of the progress, I don't care. It's gotta be quicker than don't.
Yeah. So, like, does that mean that when we play Minecraft, can I make iron holes when I need them?
6, a proper collectible. Another thing.
I bet. Thanks.
A lot of games want you to get them, but not many of them are very good at scratch. A lot more games like Walker Saga, in that it gives you a ton of tools for finding all the collectibles, including a tracker that appears on your HUD. What's even better is that you can turn the tracker on and off. So if you're not wanting to hunt down every last collectible, or if you're not wanting to do it right now, you can clean up the screen and hide all those distracting markers. Most single-player games need to let you make notes on the map too, but exploration games in particular, where you have to backtrack certain spots, they should give you some kind of way of marking the location of the map with different stickers like Breath of the Wild, which is a pretty good system, or just straight up drawing and writing notes on the map like you do. Anything that could make exploring and collectible hunting a little less tedious, basically, because let's just be completely clear, if you were doing that in real life, possible, that's what you'd be doing. You'd be writing on the map. You'd be making notes. Otherwise, you would never find anything. And number 5, a summary of where you are in the story and what's happened so far. And for some people, time is probably the most precious resource. Free time in gaming is a luxury a lot of job or whatever. We're not all rich, and the subset of people who are both not rich and lucky enough play video games as a job is a pretty small subset of people, which I'm very lucky to be myself as that. But for a lot of people, it could be weeks or even sometimes months between long-term gaming sessions. For folks like that, you can be really or clear open world games, especially if they actually want to be able to follow the plot. That's why having some kind of summary of events when you start the game is really, really helpful, like a previously on type thing, like what you get out of Witcher 3. We'll talk about that more in a second. It kind of actually allows you to work what's going on. But I mean, for people who like games, I get how it might be. So the first thing is also skip or exists as a journal with there's not enough games that do it where it's a legit right. Probably the one that does the most admirable job, like you said, is Witcher 3. Even if some of the lines get a little repetitive after a while, it's not a super long thing, and you're able to remember what you're doing where you are. Another game that does it very well is Yacht. So, even some of the other Yacht judgment, where as a whatever bad will be some way. I mean, Witcher 3 is not the only game out there that summarizes where you are in the plot, but it's not like a long book. I've read about a ton of people who started games like RDR2 more than once because they have no idea where they are in the story after being away from the game for a couple of months. And for massive games like that, that's super. And number 4, playing completely offline. And yeah, this is super tough. But a lot of games somehow struggle with it. It's a single-player game with no multiplayer elements at all, but for some reason, you can't play it offline. Like, it feels crazy that it even needs to be said, but there are enough single-player games with some kind of online-required DRM that it actually really needs to be said. One of the benefits of single-player games is that you can play them when you're not connected to the internet. And while being connected probably isn't an issue for most people, there are places in the world, or let's say means of transportation, like a train or an airplane, where you're just not connected to the internet, at least reliably so. And losing connection means losing access to a huge portion of the game library. Now, I don't think it's worth singling out any game in particular, but if you haven't had to deal with it, you'd probably be surprised at how that game with absolutely no multiplayer at all still require an internet connection. Play. It's dumb, pointless, and that's all there is to say. And number 3 is seamless transition in the map and gameplay. Now with all the made, streaming and loading, it can be a little more innovative at the time, but it's not really. Most of that shit
Bro, you can pre-order COD Modern Warfare 2.
which for first person,
Yeah.
but when you're all the way deep down, you can map with trace of supplies, and you never have to look at a single menu. It's a cool system that is kind of shocking. No other big open world game tried it. The closest thing I've put to it is like Eagle Vision and using that little birds on you in the area. But it's not all that much other than everything it had a lot of really good like the open world so much. But suppose you could make that size, that's what's left fun. So number 2 is console commands. great for the combat player and messenger, but if you single player, why care? What's the harm in letting people go around God mode and get themselves infinite ammo or whatever? What does that do? It doesn't ruin other people's gaming. Bethesda seems like one of the few companies that's kind of holding the banner for this. And Fallout, Elder Scrolls, has extensive console options. One can change pretty much everything about the game. And even more console games like Doom Eternal have unlockable cheats you can use after each level. I'm not picky. Either of those things are good. Cheating can be fun too. Video games are meant to be fun. They don't all have to be like following a distinct set of logic at all. Like maybe let us mess around with this. The concern is that players will keep different people disable them when you actually cheat. Like once they cheat, that's when you no longer get broken. And then now there's probably other issues that you'll win from this sort of thing, but it's still something we'd like more of. And finally, at number 1, unnecessary but little cool interaction ability. It's not specific, but I love what games give you, like additional way to interact. Usually it's kind of pointless, but those extra little animations to add on the game, like the middle finger button, Far Cry, Blood Dragon, or Symphony of the Night Code, gives you how all the crazy little have. Well, like I could leave the engine of the car running, maybe just tap the button to exit the vehicle, but to hold it down, turn the engine off. It's such a minor thing, but it makes you feel like you're actually interacting in the world in a small way. It's one of those things that I'm sure a lot of developers don't put time, money, or energy to implement, but it's something we'd like to see more. Probably kind of expect that to be at this level of detail, but if we had our way, they would. Sometimes the little details are the best ones. And that's all for today. Please comment, let me know what you think. If you like this video, if you like, if you're not subscribed on Great Time to do so, get more brand new videos. Best wishes first, of course, is subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications when you watch this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon0. We'll see you next time right here on Game. Gamers that play games on the highest difficulty setting are the top tier skills, right? Sometimes it's lonely in this time. There's some stuff that only these gamers experience, and that's what we're talking about today. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, 10 things only all difficult gamers will understand. Starting off at number 10, the pain of dying after playing almost perfectly. When you're playing on the hardest difficulty, the margin for error is razor thin. One mistake can equal instant death, and it's something people who play the hardest games flat out understand, and it's not really super fun. There's so many games out there that require near perfection at the highest level, but one of the standouts is Devil May Cry 3, Hell and Hellbait. In this mode, if you get hit one time, that's it, you're dead. Enemies don't do it, just as tough as they are in any other mode. And in TMC 5, at very least, this mode also checkpoints and disables gold ore, which is just plain cool. As you know, combat in DMC, any of them, is lightning fast, so just following the action takes a special kind of awareness, and knowing that just one stray hit can send you all the way back to the start of the level will make even the most hardened gaming madmen sweat bullets. There are a few things out there as miserable as playing a game perfectly, only to lose the last second to some random attack you thought you avoided. And it's hardly an exclusive feeling to Devil May Cry, but the brutal difficult modes in that series make it a perfect example of this kind of thing. And number 9 is always is often contradictory in games. You're just expected to play slowly and carefully, die carefully. But sometimes the best way to go is just rush forward. Sometimes it makes things easier, like Mass Effect 2, where rushing forward can sometimes get you past certain triggers. So if you die, you'll just skip past certain encounters. But other games basically make it a necessity to keep moving. Spamming grenades, enemy habit, many Call of Duty campaigns have, but the common consensus is that it's the worst in the World at War campaign. For some cruel reason, Treyarch doesn't really want you to play through the story carefully on veteran difficulty. Like if you stand in one spot for any time longer than a second or two, they able to start spawning grenades on you just to keep you moving. It's a dick move, to be frank. Half the time you can't even see the enemy
throw these things. So they just kind of appear nearby, and if you don't start running, you're dead. It's not like the campaign would be easy without the constant grenades raining down on you. No, not at all. Enemies are still pinpoint accurate. They can kill you with 1 or 2 shots pretty easy. So the non-stop grenades just make them already the level just that much more difficult. The only way to avoid them is to keep moving, and the only way to survive is to pretty much plan your route exactly.
Wait, what? They, brother. They did? Mm-hmm. Well, that's cool, bro. I'm not gonna lie, though. Get off as in like go to sleep, or like get off as in go play something different. Sleep. Uh, yes, expand farming, expand those thumbs. Remember, I don't know why I'm putting my fingers in my mouth. Um, Goodbye.